FBI investigating the explosion of a Cybertruck in Las Vegas as a possible terror attack. An Army veteran from Colorado identified as the driver. He was killed when the truck exploded and caught fire outside the Trump Las Vegas hotel yesterday. Law enforcement sources say 37-year-old Matthew Livelsberger had rented the electric truck and was in the driver's seat when it blew up. Fire officials in Honolulu promising tougher penalties on illegal fireworks after a massive explosion New Year's Eve left 3 dead and sent 20 others to the hospital. Honolulu Fire Chief Sheldon K. Howell.
It really looked like a war zone, and a bomb pretty much dropped right in front of that house.
An aerial fireworks display known as Cake tipped over and ignited another crate of fireworks nearby. Fireworks are illegal in Hawaii, and their widespread use has leaders frustrated. Search for a killer continues in Juneau County after 3 people were killed inside a house in New Lisbon. Residents tell WISC TV the whole community is on edge.
When I found out that there was a murder and that he was on the loose, I was totally terrified. Everybody is terrified.
A person of interest, Virgil Thu, remains at large and is considered armed and dangerous. New rules for air travelers take effect this week.
It's called a Real ID, and the Wisconsin DMV is reminding everyone that if you want to get on a plane, you're going to need to make sure you have the right identification. These cards have the added star on the upper right. Though enforcement doesn't begin until May 7th, the DMV wants everyone to start getting ready to make the switch. And it's more than just getting on a plane. You need this type of ID to be able to get into a federal building or a military base. To get a good look at what we're talking about here, visit WTMJ.com and see what's accepted and what's not. Debbie Lazaga, WTMJ News.
Wisconsin already off to a great start at the Miss America preliminaries. Miss Wisconsin Mandy Genord of Beaver Dam named one of 3 preliminary fitness award winners at the competition Wednesday. Wisconsin looking for its second Miss America win in 3 years after Wausau's Grace Stanke served as Miss America in 2023. Miss America 2025 will be named on Sunday. Time for news about your money in the WTMJ Annex Wealth Management Market Update. The Dow is up 280 points. The NASDAQ is up 148. The S&P 500 is up 41. Financial planning at every level. Annex Comprehensive Wealth, Annex Private Client, Annex Ignite. Details at annexwealth.com. Sports is brought to you by Holiday Automotive at Highway 23 in Fond du Lac. Holiday Automotive, it's worth the trip. Sports, traffic, and weather are next. Outdoor Living Unlimited, WTMJ News Time, 9:04.
In Wisconsin, WTMJ's Greg Matzik here for Holiday Automotive in Fond du Lac, where the New Year's sale is on. Hey, is there a new Chevrolet, Buick, or GMC in your future? Connect with Holiday and find one that's right for you. Stack it with their low, simplified price, get more for your trade, then pair it all up with the season's best offers. Ready to take the roads this winter with confidence. Another great option. Check out a GM-certified pre-owned model. Enjoy the peace of mind benefits like 2 factory-backed warranties, scheduled maintenance, courtesy transportation, and roadside assistance all included. Driving a GM-certified vehicle from Holiday is a no-brainer. I know you'll appreciate Team Holiday's welcoming, friendly, and genuine guest care. It's the stuff that delights and makes fans of drivers from all over. Fans like me and thousands of others who drive Holiday, Wisconsin's #1 Buick and GMC dealer. Find yours and discover the difference at Holiday Chevrolet, Buick and GMC, Highway 41 and 23 in Fond du Lac, and at holidaygm.com. It's worth the trip.
Ben, I thought you were on vacation.
I am.
Okay.
I found the perfect vacation spot.
Where?
Here.
At Penny Mustard?
Specifically, the Miles sofa at Penny Mustard.
Did you say you're vacationing on a sofa?
It's not your run-of-the-mill sofa. The Miles sectional sofa is different.
Well, it is super comfy.
When you're fully ensconced in the luxurious embrace of the Miles sectional sofa, you ain't going anywhere anytime soon.
Perfect for relaxing after a hard day of work.
Or a fun day of play.
Built just the way you want it.
So you're really spending a week of vacation on the Miles sofa?
I'll send you a postcard.
Postcard?
Dear Arvid and Nicole, wish you were here.
Good grief.
P.S. Miles says hi.
The Miles Sectional, starting at just $238 a month, with only 1 penny down and no interest till January of 2028. Through January 5th at Penny Mustard.
Showrooms in Milwaukee and Chicago.
PennyMustard.com.
Better versions of what people want.
Penny Mustard Furnishing.
Time for a WTMJ Sports Update from the Gruber Law Office's One Call That's All Sports Desk. Packers continue preparations for their regular season finale Sunday afternoon. Team battles Caleb Williams and the Bears from Lambeau. Green Bay coming off a close loss to the Vikings, but already secured a playoff spot, 11-5. Team hits the road to play the Eagles, Rams, or Buccaneers in the wild card round. Bucks tonight take on the Nets from Fiserv Forum. College ball, Milwaukee visits Oakland tonight. Tomorrow night, number 8 Marquette hosts Creighton, and Wisconsin plays host to Iowa. Badgers sports updates are sponsored by Siding Unlimited. Siding and a whole lot more. Taking a look at the roads now with your WTMJ Johnson & Sons paving time saver traffic. We have a crash that's closing the 2 left lanes. This is going to be I-43 south at North Avenue. That means delays headed southbound into downtown. Also a disabled vehicle on the exit to 35th Street from I-94 east. Here's your WTMJ 5-day forecast. After morning flurries, mostly cloudy, high today of 30. Should clear up overnight with a low of 17. Sunny, breezy tomorrow, high 24. Sunny on Saturday with a high 23. Clouds return on Sunday, 25 for the high. Then a slight chance of snow on Monday, mostly to the south. High Monday, 29. 20 in Madison and in Green Bay, 24 in Milwaukee. I'm Connie Weber. Outdoor Living Unlimited, WTMJ News Time, 9:08.
Good morning, Wisconsin. So let's pour that coffee and talk to some experts about what's going on in Milwaukee, Madison, Washington, and beyond. Broadcasting live from the Annex Wealth Management Studios at the Avenue in beautiful downtown Milwaukee. It's the Political Power Hour on WTMJ. Here's your host, Steve Scaffidi.
Should we talk about the government?
And good morning, Happy New Year. I didn't think I was going to start my show on the 2nd of January to talk about another mass killing event, this one in incidents rather, in New Orleans, city I've been to many times. Just had a lot of work meetings in New Orleans. A wonderful city. Like many cities, it has its own problems, and this one started very early on New Year's Day. Around 3 a.m., a individual drives through their Bourbon Street area, which is one of the most popular tourist areas in New Orleans, obviously. Plows a pickup truck, now killing 15, many others hospitalized. So we're going to start the show with that. My guest today, she's been on the show many times before, retired Milwaukee County Judge Mary Kuhnmensch. First of all, Happy New Year, Mary.
Happy New Year to you, Steve.
I guess I want to look at this from sort of just a perspective. You're a very smart person. You certainly understand the dynamics of this country and the legal side of things and from a judge perspective, how that plays out after something happens. But I guess when we look at stories like this, where people are acting out in this way, and unfortunately it's a common story now, what are some of the things you're thinking about? How are you processing this sort of a more frequent, more violent, normal events that are happening now? They're not even abnormal. They're happening all the time, I guess is the way it's probably a poor way of saying it, but it just seems like this is almost a weekly occurrence now.
You know, I have two impressions, immediate impressions from, hearing about this and learning more about it yesterday as it unfolded. And the first one was that, and sadly, it does not surprise me. I think, Americans, we have short memories in many things. And one of the things we have a short memory about is the carnage that we have suffered in many of our major cities, whether it be New York at 9/11 or whether it be the Boston Marathon.
Yeah, you brought that up earlier when we were talking about the show. It sort of rings like we gather together in large numbers.
Oh, absolutely. We love our Americans. It's part of the fun of being an American. We love to gather together for concerts, for sporting events. We are driven by entertainment venues, and that's great. And it is part of our celebration, even in New Orleans, year round, from Mardi Gras to now we've got the Sugar Bowl down there, and they're going to host the Super Bowl. So in major cities across this country, in venues like Las Vegas and New York and Boston with the Boston Marathon, it could be any city in America that has a major sporting event that is going to be held. If you ask law enforcement their greatest nightmares, it is preparing for these large venues, these large events, entertainment events, sporting events across the country. Even you can talk to Jeff Norman, our police chief in Milwaukee, just preparing and leading up to the Republican convention last summer. And you were, I think, in that zone, Steve, I think, because you were broadcasting from there. So you thought, and we've talked about this, that it was as safe as it could possibly ever be. But the problem is it's so safe that you have to basically take over the entire city. There's a safety zone. In fact, the reason I know that is because the courthouse was within the safety zone of the Republican convention, and so we weren't going to be able to have jury trials or even hold any kind of hearing or do any kind of business at the courthouse during that week because you can't get people in and out of the where the courthouse is on 10th and Wells without having them go through different screening and so forth, and it became too much of a burden that you would put on people coming to serve as jurors or litigants or people who are trying to get to the courthouse to get their business done. That you basically closed the courthouse down for that week.
Well, that's one of the reasons I brought this up is because we have these big public events, but life goes on for all the other people that are not involved in that, and if these two things come together and there's a friction point there, that's not a normal life. And as we see incidents like this, who amongst us, and I'm just throwing this out there, thinks that security will be loosened? It will not be. It'll be more tight. And even in this case in New Orleans on Bourbon Street, there were barricades. The individual just drove around them.
Well, we got used to, I think, again, short memories. Remember back, we never had screening before we boarded planes.
Yes, I know.
We never had to take our shoes off until a would-be terrorist decided to have his shoelaces become part of a bomb that he was going to set off on a plane after 9/11. So there's all sorts of things that we have kind of become accustomed to that we never did prior to 9/11. And that's going to increase because as long as we are going to be a free and open society, which we are, and you're asking law enforcement to provide us with those opportunities, but to make it as safe as possible for all of us, you're always going to have sort of a friction as to how much is too much security. And I would argue that we haven't gotten there yet, and I don't know that we will, because you can see that somebody can take people who went to the parade in Waukesha saw that somebody went right down the middle of the road and killed many people using his car as a weapon. And we had a guy who went across and around a squad car and any barriers that might have been up and rode on a sidewalk, not only in Europe, in Germany during the Christmas market. That's what he uses. It would be criminal over there did that. And now you've got here in New Orleans somebody doing the same thing. Whether it was a copycat or not, I think using cars or other things that are available to us, it's not a far stretch. If we're going to use airplanes as weapons of mass destruction, using cars to do that is not far behind.
We got to take a break. We're joined on the show, the entire program today, by retired Milwaukee County Judge Mary Kuhnmensch. Think about this during the break, Mary. When the individual, in many of these cases, either takes their own life or is killed by public safety professionals, there is no court case. There is no examination. I wonder from a judge's perspective if that is somehow defining where these stories are going and the culture that we live in now of mass violence. We'll continue the conversation, Political Power Hour, on this second day of January. Thanks for tuning in. You're listening, of course, to 620 WTMJ.
Once the final whistle blows, Bucks Talk with Justin Garcia is on the air.
Let's go, baby!
Recap every Bucks game, win or lose with Bucks Talk.
But the fact that this was not universally met with shockwaves of, wow, did you see the Milwaukee Bucks fired their head coach? I think speaks to what John Horst was talking about. If things were good, we need them to be great.
It's Bucks Talk with Justin Garcia, only here on the home of the Bucks, WTMJ.
I'm WTMJ's Sandy Max. What makes living at Three Pillars so special? Let's hear from my friend Lark.
I love the location, and that's the main reason Dave and I are there, is because of nature all around us. I knew when we moved in, I was leaving behind a lot of stress and responsibility. I decided now is the time to do what I want when I want to do it.
Schedule a tour today at threepillars.org.
Just like most cars and trucks can't run without oil, no person can function without food. That's why through March 1st, the Auto Dealers of Metro Milwaukee is contributing $1 from every oil change to Feeding America, Eastern Wisconsin. Every dollar provides 3 healthy meals. Over the past 14 years, Adam has provided more than 2.6 million meals to people in southeast Wisconsin. And now, the need is greater than ever. Find a participating Adam dealer near you at adamm.com.
The holiday season is a magical time of year to visit Lake Geneva. Embark on an enchanting Santa cruise on the lake. Take in a parade of trees and marvel at the world's tallest glass tree, built before your very eyes. Enjoy holiday shopping in a historic downtown. Chill out with festive food and libations in an igloo under the stars. Or find adventure on a zipline, ski hill, or snow-covered nature trail. Make Lake Geneva your place for holiday fun this year. Check out visitlakegeneva.com today for all the festive details.
Thanks for tuning in on this Tuesday edition. I might keep saying Tuesday. Thursday. Why am I saying Tuesday? Thursday edition.
I didn't want to correct you, Steve.
My goodness.
We are at Thursday.
See, that's what happens when you take a day off here and there. Now, I did work Monday and Tuesday, so it's not like I wasn't working Tuesday. Mary Kuhnmanch, retired Milwaukee County judge, my guest on this Thursday edition. I asked the question before the break. I guess for me, when there isn't a court case or some way of fact-finding about the why, the motive, and well, those things can be gleaned in other ways, but we're not hearing from the person necessarily at a trial. And then this is, like I said before at the beginning of the show, an ever-increasing pace of these types of events in our country. I guess without that exploration that when you have a trial, you find out things. You maybe in some ways learn how to prevent some of these things or to respond to them more effectively and efficiently. I guess there's sort of this weird, it's over, but it's not over scenario.
I will tell you this. One of the most asked questions of judges, or at least from my experience, is, people are always curious about, how could, especially jurors who sit on our homicide cases or our more violent crimes cases. They come in with very little experience or interaction. Why would they? With the criminal justice system, they're asked to come in as jurors, and one of the things that they'll always ask is, well, they had to have been crazy to do that, right, Judge? They had to, there had to have been. They were suffering from some mental illness, and I said, boy, we like to think that because I think it comforts us somehow that only people that are mentally ill would do these horrific crimes, but the reality is that that's not the case. Whether you're talking generally just from a general philosophical position or whether you're talking about it under the law, because the law has a very specific definition of what somebody is that is excused of a crime because of their mental state, and is, they do not understand the wrongfulness of their conduct. And that's the standard if you're going to have a mental disease or defect defense.
I guess my point was there can never be an examination of that individual because that individual is gone. They've either taken their own life or they were killed by authorities, as in New Orleans.
And I don't know how you get around that, Steve, because as these officers did, thank God, they engage with firearm. They're shooting back at somebody who's shooting at them, and more often than not, especially in these terrorist-like situations, or what we believe to be a terrorist situation, or you're going to have a bad outcome. And the bad outcome is that they're going to be killed. And so you're never going to get that opportunity. We have now, I think I pointed this out to you earlier, that people are real quick to defend or to say that he's got some mental illness. This young man, Mangione, who shot and killed early in the morning in Manhattan, right outside a Hilton Hotel, the executive from the United Health. And right away, is the defense going to be that he's suffering from a mental disease or defect, and I would argue that that they may not be able to successfully raise that. Now, time will tell if they're going to raise it as a defense or whether it's even going to be effective. But the reality is that not everyone who suffers from anger, depression, anxiety, it's giving all people who suffer from mental illness a bad rap that all of them are capable, are the only ones that are capable of doing these really horrific acts. And the fact of the matter is that there are plenty of sane people that are drunk and make a decision not to get behind the wheel of a car. And there's a lot of people who are alcoholics or have too much to drink and make the decision to get behind the wheel of a car. So you can't just paint with a broad brush and say that anyone who creates these kinds of or engages in this kind of horrific behavior, that mass destruction over human life, that it's created because of some mental illness that they're suffering from. I wish I could give that as a comfort to everybody, but that's not the case.
Texter asked this question. I think this is something that I think I was trying to get to. When there is no person to go after, to try and convict and sentence for the innocents that are killed or injured, is there ever truly justice or closure based on that incident or event?
That's a very good question, and it really comes down to your definition of justice. I think bringing somebody to justice where they're held accountable brings a lot of comfort to victims or families of victims of these crimes. We know that because they tell us that often after the cases. The most moving incidents in my career as a judge was having family members, mothers of individuals who've been murdered. I had a horrific case in front of me when I was on the homicide bench, a young man putting himself through to UWM by delivering pizzas, and he was killed in broad daylight for $20 worth of tips over on the east side of Milwaukee. This is several years ago. His mother, the case went to trial. There was a conviction, and his mother addressed the court and asked for forgiveness and leniency for the defendant who took her son's life. Even after talking in just glowing and loving ways as a mother would do of her own child and the loss that she has suffered, but she was able to still find justice in her way by addressing the court. So it really kind of depends on what your view of justice is. Holding someone accountable, in some instances, it's in this case, he was held accountable because law enforcement had to engage him and kill him. So the families of those 15 individuals who are now dead, their justice is going to come from the fact that this man can't do harm to anyone else and that his life has been ended. For others, it's taking them to trial and making them go through the process and then being able to address that defendant face-to-face about the havoc that they caused in their own family because they've lost a loved one. So it really depends on what your view of justice is. Closure comes with accountability and holding. That's how our system is built. And holding people accountable, that accountability comes in different forms.
I know from a judge's perspective, you've looked at all elements and all aspects of things people do on the criminal side. Somebody raised this to me, God, must have been a month ago. And basically, I'm going to paraphrase. We are an imperfect society. As many as 1 out of 3 people have had an active interaction with law enforcement, public safety, which is sort of astounding when you think about it. And I guess the bigger question for me is, as we go forward and we have more of these mass casualty, mass shooting events, mass violent events, have we become too accepting, or has that become normalized behavior when we see people not only just angry, but wanting to take that anger and kill other people with that anger? I guess it's a big question for a couple of minutes, but it's something that is on a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, and that, boy, that I wish I, had an answer for you. I'd be a very wise individual, and I'll give you what I do think is that we have. I don't know that we've become desensitized to it, but we have accepted it because we live in a society that is now gone through some of these horrific things, whether it was the Boston Marathon.
Well, the list is so long now, and these are all within the last 10 years.
And so we've accepted the fact that if we're going to live in this kind of a society, we're going to have increased interaction with law enforcement. We're going to have to be more vigilant, all of us. If you notice yesterday, one of the very first things that the FBI was asking was, like they did after the Boston Marathon, if you have any phone videos, if you have anything from that night, if you have any information, please contact us, because they rely on all of us with our cell phones and our eyes and our ears to help law enforcement. So we've almost become a part of society's even understood that we have a role to play in monitoring these kinds of horrific things as well. And I think that, we're not, I don't think we're desensitized. I don't think we have gone that far. What we are is more accepting of it and the possibility that we're vulnerable. We're going to continue to be vulnerable as long as we live in an open society.
Retired Milwaukee County Judge Mary Kuhnmensch, my guest for the entire hour on the Thursday edition right here on 620 WTMJ.
Hey Bucks fans, it's Justin Garcia from the Bucks Radio Network, here to tell you about the launch of the Bucks Central podcast feed. Everything Bucks, on demand, in one spot. From sideline to sideline, hear all the ankle-breaking, rim-rattling, and twine-tingling highlights, exclusive interviews, and more. Subscribe to the Bucks Central podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. All the Bucks content your heart desires in one spot. Check out the Bucks Central podcast feed.
Hey, this is WTMJ's Steve Scaffidi. For Annex Wealth Management, we make decisions every day. You know this. Some like easy. What's for lunch? Others like, how am I going to plan for my retirement? They're not that simple. After all, decisions need to be made about when to take Social Security or what does my tax burden look like. I just had this conversation with my Annex advisor over the weekend. Are my investments overlapping and inefficient? On my way to retirement, there are many decisions you need to make, and it's easy to miss a few. It's time to talk with Annex Wealth Management to button things up. Annex is a fee-only fiduciary. It's about you, not commissions. There are CFPs, CFAs, CPAs, PhDs, and attorneys, and I've met them all at Annex, and they're wonderful, all on staff and part of your team working on investment, retirement, estate, and tax planning. No one is the same. Annex understands that. When you're a client of Annex, help is only a visit or a quick phone call away, but it won't happen until you make that decision. Do it today. Know the difference. Start at annexwealth.com.
We've saved our clients over $19 million in real estate commission. I say this because that's a pretty big number. But at Century 21 Benefit Realty, it's really not about being a top volume agency. Over here, it's more about you. And at 1.9% commission and no more than $19,000 commission, for the listing side of your sale, no matter what size property you're selling, you will save substantially. This is Angela Calais with Century 21 Benefit Realty, benefit-realty.com, where you pay less for full service. Each office is independently owned and operated. First off, our 1.9% commission structure helps get their foot in the door, and that's why agents like working here. But what they really like is having the strongest marketing tools available, with the resources to help them sell homes at the highest prices to satisfy their clients. Century 21 Benefit Realty offers what agents like most, and that's to help them be successful. If you really want to believe in the business model that you're representing, give me a call. I'm Angela Calais with Century 21 Benefit Realty. Call me, and let's talk about your future. Each office is independently owned and operated.
From the biggest plays on the court to the comments made in the locker room after, an in-depth recap of every Bucks game in 6 minutes. No more, no less. Bucks in 6 provides game recaps for every game. Hear the high-flying dunks from Giannis.
Puts it on the floor, spins down the lane, and plunges it through.
Or the deep threes from Dame.
Dame time has arrived with 107.
Bucks in 6 on the Bucks Plus Audio Network. Find it now on bucks.com/plus or on Spotify, Apple, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Retired Mark Petty Judge Mary Kuhnmensch, who's actually not, you're still doing cases.
Well, if they ask me to sit as a reserve, I always say yes. My husband, too much to his dismay. And I try to fit in my responsibilities to my community that I do what I can whenever I can, but I enjoy being on your show as well, Steve.
Interesting text on the Siding Unlimited WTMJ Talking text line. And I agree with this. Politics has played a role in this anger. We only got about 15 seconds, but I think we both agree on this.
Yeah, and I think you and I were talking about this before we went on the air, and I would tell you that one of my other impressions was, even at the press conference, which was hastily put together, pretty disorganized, about in New Orleans yesterday, right after the FBI agent in charge spoke, you had the politician, the senator, the junior senator from Louisiana, John Kennedy, addressing the press, and he was, I would say, he
was out of place. We got to cut it off.
He was very out of
Yes.
place and very.
Got to leave it there. Got ABC News. We'll talk about it after the break.
Okay.
This is a special report from ABC News New Orleans attack. I'm Brian Clark. Law enforcement sources tell ABC News the FBI and New Orleans police do not believe anyone else was involved in the terror attack in the French Quarter, and that the attacker planted the improvised explosive devices himself before driving through the New Year's crowd. Jim Maurer and his wife were in that crowd visiting from Iowa.
We were in the middle of the street. The truck was coming right towards us, but luckily we did see it and hear it quickly enough to get ourselves out of the street, but unfortunately, right in front of us, several others did not.
Over 30 people were hurt. The attacker, Shamsuddin Jabbar, a 42-year-old U.S. citizen who served in the Army. President Biden will convene his national security team this afternoon for updates. This afternoon also features the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. Homeland Security investigations helping to secure the game that was postponed by 1 day. This is ABC News.
Outdoor Living Unlimited. News Time 9:31. I'm Connie Weber. 3 people hurt in early morning house fire at 32nd Silver Spring on Milwaukee's north side. Fire officials say the blaze started on the first floor of the home around 5:40 this morning, but they're not sure how. A Janesville woman, Frederica Burks, was arrested for her 5th operating while intoxicated offense Wednesday, I-39 near DeForest. She had 5 kids in the car with her, all under age 16. The cruiser Deep Thought that's been stranded on the Lake Michigan shoreline since mid-October when it ran out of gas, still stuck in the sand after a second failed removal attempt on Monday. As a week of frigid temperatures sets in, owner of Jerry Silo Marina, Jerry Geyer, says he doesn't see another chance to pull it out anytime soon. As far as who's paying for the more than $18,000 in removal attempts so far, Geyer says the owners of the boat have stopped answering his calls, and the Department of Natural Resources can only issue the owners a littering ticket. Time for some news about your money. The WTMJ Annex Wealth Management Market Update. Dow is up 103 points at 42,647. NASDAQ up 42 at 19,352. S&P 500 is up 12 at 5,894. Financial planning at every level. Annex Comprehensive Wealth, Annex Private Client, Annex Ignite. Details at annexwealth.com. Taking a look at the roads now with your WTMJ Johnson & Sons paving time saver traffic. That crash on I-43 South at North Avenue has been cleared. The 2 left lanes were closed at one time. It looks like that has been cleared off the roadway. Again, that's I-43 South around North Avenue. Here's your WTMJ 5-day forecast. Mostly cloudy today with a high of 30. Clear and 17 overnight. Sunny and breezy tomorrow, high 24. Sunny and 23 on Saturday. Clouds rolling in on Sunday, still chilly with a high of 25. And then a slight chance of snow on Monday. Most of that system will stay to the south. High Monday of 29. 20 in Madison and Green Bay and 24 in Milwaukee. I'm Connie Weber. Outdoor Living Unlimited, WTMJ News Time 9:33.
Hi, folks. This is Hank Albert, owner of BBC Lighting. Now that we're into the holiday season, it's time to celebrate with new lights and ceiling fans. And our huge award-winning showroom displays hundreds of the best quality lights and fans. There's not a brand we can't get, and our prices are the lowest, even lower than online. I guarantee it. And our knowledgeable staff is always here to assist you in making the right choices. If it's lampshades or repairs you need, we do all that too. There's something for everyone at BBC, including antiques, collectibles, fun for the kids, and our famous free popcorn. We are open Monday through Saturday and located at 20th and St. Paul Avenue, across from Sobelman's and Bachman Furniture, all near the Potawatomi Casino. Stay safe and healthy, my friends.
So how do you underpromise and still get the job? We believe in our hearts we're going to do great work for you. We're just really careful about making unrealistic promises. At Semper Fi, we refuse to set the bar higher than we can jump. But be assured, that's the goal. To do all we can to jump as high as possible to try to exceed your expectations. We're looking to break records. That's how you win over customers, get really great referrals, and build a great business. When you're making a decision to hire an exterior remodeling company, character, integrity, and the feeling that the people you're about to hire are truly eager to show you how good they are should stand at the top of your list. This is Brad Youngluth with Semper Fi Roofing and Exteriors, your local, veteran-owned and operated exterior remodeling company. For your new roof, siding, window and door installation, or masonry work, you can count on Semper Fi to keep you safe, warm, and dry.
We keep you safe, warm, and dry. Semper Fi.
Thanks for tuning in on this Thursday on 620 WTMJ. My guest this next half hour, as she's been here for the first half hour as well, retired, sort of, Milwaukee County Judge Mary Kunmech. We wanted to just sort of finish what we were talking about before I had to kind of move it along for the news there. Thanks to Connie Weber for giving us the news update at the bottom. The connection between politics and anger, and I'll go there, politics and violence.
You know, when I was first going to run for judge, one of my esteemed colleagues, who was a mentor to me as I began my career on the bench, said one thing to me, and it actually has served me well when I follow it, and that is less is more. And I think that's true with a lot of things in life. Some things don't need to be amplified. Some things don't need to be done. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I would say that is a lesson that many of our politicians, unfortunately, from Congress to the Senate to local politicians, don't understand and haven't learned. And I started to tell you earlier that I was concerned about that press conference on many levels, and one of them was that you have a United States senator making unnecessarily, sort of threatening the law enforcement people there without, I suppose, even understanding that that's what he was doing by saying, we're going to be transparent. We're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to let everybody know. But right now it's a federal investigation. They're in control. They're doing all this. And I'm going to be reasonable. I'm going to give them a reasonable period of time within which to do this. And I thought to myself, well, why are you the arbitrator of who you're a United States senator? And you're going to be the determiner now of how long or not long is an investigation in a massive terrorist or what we believe to be a terrorist event in this country. I mean, people sticking their nose in where it doesn't belong, talking about things they really don't know about. And everybody has an opinion and says, I have a right to an opinion. Yes, you do, but you don't have the right to share it with everybody at any time you want. There's a time and a place for everything. And I think he overstepped. And it's because of the politics. He's a Republican senator from the state of Louisiana. There was a Democratic congressman there who then had to get in and sort of defend the Biden administration's response to this terrorist act. And so you've now got a law enforcement press event that's been taken over by politics. Absolutely no place for it. Law enforcement knows no politics. Their job is to get to the facts and to apprehend as quickly as they can anybody involved in this act, and to do it to assure the community that they're now safe. And when you throw politics in for the sake of politics, you're doing nothing to enhance the law enforcement activity. If anything, you're interfering with it. So you got to know in your own mind as a political person, whether you're a state rep or whether you're a United States senator or even a trial court judge like I am, you need to know when you should be involved and when you should shut up. And a lot of our politicians don't know that.
Having been in that situation, mass shooting event, Oak Creek 2012, in my opinion, the correct response from an elected official is to, one, calm and reassure your community. That's number one. And two, understand that you are not driving the investigation. That's not a city, in my case, function. It's a law enforcement public safety function. Let them do their work and probably more importantly, stay out of their way. And for Senator Kennedy to sort of, one, do what you said, interject politics, but two, take shots at the media or make snarky comments about NBC.
Did you notice that?
Yes.
I mean, he was making jokes. You wouldn't understand it because the NBC reporter fought back and said, I don't get it. And he said, I know you don't. And, to try and get a political response out of it. It had no place in that press conference. And shame on him for doing that. And we've got too many. I mean, you had Marjorie Taylor Greene and even, incoming President Donald Trump talking about migrants being the bane of our existence here in the United States. And I'm hoping that starts to wear on people. And we that can't be the response to every single violent act in this country is not committed by an illegal immigrant. It's just not. And for us to have some sort of common sense and push back, for our country to start good citizens across the country push back and say, no, a migrant didn't do this. He was a United States citizen. And he was also a veteran honorably discharged from the United States Army. So don't throw your comments in that it's due to some, illegal migrant, as they called them, taking a gun and a car or a truck and causing havoc in New Orleans. That's just not the case.
Look, hates and misinformation can often be as dangerous as the weapon of choice for some of the individuals who are doing these acts. That is a dangerous thing. We don't need more of it. We need less. We're going to pivot a little bit because I want to ask you about this. Chief Justice, U.S. Supreme Court, John Roberts, warned about threats of violence towards justices. This is in advance of the Trump inauguration. I'm curious how that sort of is part of this story. Retired Buckingham Judge Mary Kuhnmetz joining us right here on 620 WTMJ.
Hey, John Mercure here for Guthrie and Fry Water Conditioning. My reverse osmosis system in my house is fantastic. The water I drink, the water we feed the dogs, the water we cook with is crisp, clean, and clear thanks to Guthrie and Fry's RO system. It's the best in the business. It's affordable, it's effective, and you'll feel a lot better. It's all about the science. They know at Guthrie and Fry that better water makes a big difference. Southeast Wisconsin's #1 choice and my choice is Guthrie and Fry Water Conditioning.
Better water makes a big difference. Guthrie and Fry.
Finding the special healthcare resources families need just got easier. Wisconsin Wayfinder Children's Resource Network helps kids with delays, disabilities, special healthcare needs, and mental health conditions. Call toll-free 877-947-2929. Ask questions. Get answers. Connect today toll-free 877-947-2929. Sponsored by the Wisconsin Department of Health Services.
Accunet Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLS ID 255368.
Patrick and Monica initially chose a bank to get pre-approved and provide financing for the purchase of their first home. But they were getting a bad feeling when a week after their offer was accepted, the bank still hadn't locked in their rate, nor had the appraisal been ordered. Monica shared her concerns with a friend who happened to be a multi-time Accunet client. That led to Monica connecting with one of our senior loan consultants the same day, and after gathering some information and reviewing options, we locked in their rate right then and there with loan costs $3,600 lower than what the bank had quoted. The appraisal was ordered right away too, and the loan closed on time just 3 weeks later. We also noticed an oversight in the contract that led to a $3,000 credit from the seller. You can get a generic pre-approval and average or worse service from a bank, or you can get the kind of fast service, advice, attention to detail, and savings that made Monica and Patrick Accunet's latest raving fans. All you got to do to get started is click on the blue button at Accunet.com. That's ACCUNET.com.
I'm Brett Matschke, and you're due for service.
Rich Lawns.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Continuing our conversation with retired Milwaukee County Judge Mary Kuhn Mensch. I mentioned before the break, Mary, that Chief Justice John Roberts, you've been critical of him in the past year. We've talked about some of the decisions from the U.S. Supreme Court. Every year he does a sort of end-of-year review, and I'm just looking at it, and he flagged some things that he thought were threats to the judicial system. He wrote that lawmakers, public officials pose a threat to judicial independence.
Yeah, he indicates intimidation in the form of protesters intent on harassing judges and public officials, suggesting political bias in the judge's adverse rulings without a credible basis is another growing problem to the courts. Attempts to intimidate judges for their rulings in cases are inappropriate and should be vigorously opposed. I don't disagree with one word of that. And you're right. This comes as a supporter of John Roberts when he started. I had just such high hopes that he was going to follow in the Rehnquist tradition of keeping the courts out of politics, of rendering as many majority-type decisions where you brought in both, the left of the court and the right of the court in unanimous decisions, or in at least majority-type decisions like a 6-3 or a 7-2, with the 2 or 3 being outliers. But it has not gone that way. One could argue that he was far more, I think, inclusive and credible at the beginning of his tenure as the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court than he is now. And part of the reason that his message may fall, that's important, and I agree with it, but it may fall on deaf ears, both inside and outside the judiciary at both the federal and the state levels, because he has not been consistent in that message. He has not been consistent in reprimanding justices, which is he has the authority to do, that act outside the scope of their ethical code, written or unwritten. He has not used his authority as the chair of the Federal Judicial Conference that I was talking to you about off air just a moment ago. We have one at the state level and the federal level. I was on our state judicial conference. We create the rules by which we administer justice in the state of Wisconsin. And similarly, the feds do it at the federal level. And he is the chair of that. And as such, he could have created out of that conference, with a majority of the votes, which he would have had, an ethics code for the Supreme Court.
Simple question, why hasn't he?
I don't know. I wish I did, because that was a simple way for him to address a lot of the credibility issues that people inside and outside the judiciary have. It's hard for federal judges and state court judges who have an absolute ethical code that we have to abide by, and if we violate it, we're before a disciplinary commission. And that the Supreme Court, with these incredibly obvious violations of an ethics code, a financial ethics code, where you are not disclosing millions of dollars worth of gifts, it's hard for people in this country to believe that justice is not tainted when you have justices taking that kind of money. And whether they are on the left or the right, it makes no difference. And I would suggest that there are probably some other cases that will come to light with other justices doing the same thing. And that's got to stop. And it needs to stop with the authority of the voice of the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. And until he does that, his end of the year admonition to the public about not acting in violent ways or trying to discredit the decisions that you don't like that come from the Supreme Court, or try to take justice into your own hands and threaten judges with physical violence, that's inappropriate. All of that is true, and I support it 100%. But it would land on ears that are more open to listening to it and following it if he were as equally adamant about some of the faults within the Supreme Court and how they have violated a judicial code that all of us know to abide by, which is not to take those kinds of gifts. And until he does that, he's going to have credibility issues.
Texter asks, so I'll ask on the Siding Unlimited talk and text line, any of his admonitions and sort of pronouncements about violence and threats directed toward the incoming president, Donald Trump, do you think? He's spent a lot of time in courtrooms.
Yeah.
He spent a lot of time talking about justices and decisions.
I think so. I think it may be. Let me put it this way. I hope so. I hope it's intended to send a message to all politicians that just whether you're a person who has been before the court as a Joe citizen, and you're a litigant in a matter that has come before the court or will go before the court, or you're a lawyer who has been an advocate before the court, I'm talking about the Supreme Court, and really any court in this country where you are on the losing end, where the decision did not go your way, and that would include someone like incoming President Donald Trump, that it harms our third branch of government, which is the judiciary. It harms all of us when we lose faith in and we take pot shots at the judiciary because we don't like the outcome, and it allows people or gives them permission, whether they act on it or not. It seems to give them permission when you have the President of the United States calling out justices and calling them names and that they don't know what they're doing, or they're stupid, or they're this, or they're wrong. It gives people permission that otherwise would like to take their anger and frustration out on acting in violent ways against those justices. And we've seen that. The personal attacks and violent attacks on judges across this country have increased tenfold. And we've had serious incidents right here in Milwaukee and in Wisconsin.
I was going to ask you, because you're obviously a judge. I mean, you're aware of these things happening.
Yeah, and it used to, as a judge, I can tell you this, and I'm sure I speak for most of my colleagues at the federal and state level. We're sort of used to that. We don't like it, but we're used to it. But you got to remember that we have families and we have children. And they see that on the media. They see that in somebody threatening us, and it scares them. It's going to scare kids. It's going to scare family members. And it acts as a deterrent to other people who are in private practice who would otherwise make terrific judges from even considering getting into the arena or putting their hat in the arena for running for judge.
And the talent pool gets smaller by the
Yes.
day, whether you're talking about justices or you're talking about elected officials, and that is a warning sign.
And Steve, I would go one step further, and I would say we have a lack of a talent pool. All all criticism aside to both the Republicans and the Democrats, we have a terrible problem in this country, and that is getting really smart, good-hearted, common sense young people going into government positions, whether it's at the state or federal level, running for elective office. Look at the talent pool. So people will say to me all the time, look, if Biden and Trump are the best we can come up with in this country, if Harris and Trump are the best we can come up with in this, we're in bad shape. Well, part of that is true because we're driving, because of the way politics is now and the anger and the stupidity is driving young people away from public service. They'd rather go into philanthropic work or NGOs, non-governmental entities, or nonprofits, or into business. But they don't see politics as a viable or even attractive option for them. And that's going to be the bane of our existence if we're going to continue as a democracy. We've got to attract the best and the brightest. And right now, we're not doing that.
Well said. Retired Monk County Judge Mary Kuhnman's closing arguments on this Thursday edition after this.
While you rest on the weekends, we work for you. Wisconsin's Weekend Morning News with Libby Collins. The latest in news.
The amount of energy people are using is going up. Power companies are changing where that power comes from.
Entertainment.
This is the culmination of these tour journals of all the weirdest shows I've played.
And more.
Anybody who looks at this institutionally would never allow recess appointments to happen when a Republican president gets elected because they'll know what will happen if a Democrat gets elected.
Every Sunday morning starting at 8 on WTMJ.
Hey, this is WTMJ, Steve Scaffidi for Avon. I love talking about Avon because it changed my life. I think it changed yours as well. If you have bad nights of sleep, tossing and turning, restlessness, you don't have to put up with that. Long before I was a spokesperson, I was a customer and a client of Advent. I went to Advent. They fixed my problems. Mine was sinuses and nasal passage in my breathing triangle. Did a really simple sleep study at home in my own bed. Real easy, 30-minute visit, put me at ease, answered my questions. Short procedure in office. Since that date, which is now like 5 years ago, I'm sleeping through the whole night. An awesome night's sleep last night. If you struggle like I used to, take the time to see how Advent can help. To find out how breathing well and sleeping well can make your nights better, go to adventknows.com and schedule an appointment today because Advent knows when you breathe well, you live better.
Shop the January New Year's sale on better quality furniture and mattresses at Ken Michaels Furniture.
Now at Menards, save big money on everything to update your home. Easily create your dream kitchen with Clearview Cabinetry. With so many styles to choose from, you'll be sure to find plenty of options that you will love. Start your project today and save big on Clearview Cabinetry. Plus, the bag sale is back. Get 15% off everything you can fit inside the bag. Good through January 12th. See store for complete details.
Save big money at Menards.
Hey, WTMJ's John Mercure here, asking you to join me in October as my wife and I explore the magical kingdoms of Southeast Asia, from the villages of Vietnam and the temples of Cambodia to the friendly locals of Laos and the beachside resort in stunning, lively Thailand. I hope you'll join us for this unforgettable journey. Ancient and mysterious worlds of rural landscapes, bustling cities, and fascinating history in Vietnam. Explore the Chu Chi tunnels used by the Viet Cong. Experience a street food adventure through Hanoi and cherish the serenity of Hai Long Bay on a beautiful boat ride. Bangkok in Thailand, the beaches in Thailand, history, tradition, food. If you'd like more information on this great trip, send me an email. john.mercure@wtmj.com. john.mercure@wtmj.com. It's Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos. I'm super jazzed about this trip. Send me an email. I send you the info. john.mercure, MERCURE, @wtmj.com.
WTMJ, W277CV, and WKTI HD2 Milwaukee from the Annex Wealth Management Studios. This is News Radio WTMJ, a Good Karma brand station. Now it's time for your closing arguments.
Retired Monkey. Yeah, we got the full lead in and everything now. Thanks to producer Jocelyn for that. Let's get your mic on there. There we go.
Yeah, it sounds like a gavel in the background there.
Yes. All right, closing arguments. Mary Kuhnman.
You know, I think what I would offer for the new year, by way of a resolution for people to commit to in your listening audience, and that is to get out of your zip code. That is a phrase that my kids will tell you they heard over and over and over again in my household. And then, oh, Mom, but I said it for a reason. It means get out of your comfort zone. So if you're watching Fox and you get your news from Fox, God bless you, but turn it off and go listen to NBC or CBS or MSNBC. And if you're listening to MSNBC and some of the other, talk shows, get out of there and go listen to Fox. In other words, open your ears to other voices and start to listen critically. If you like that I'm talking common sense, well, ask your reporters and the people you get your news from to do likewise. And if they're not, if they're giving you a bent one way or the other, you sense that it's probably true. So find a station or find a news outlet that, like Steve Scaffidi, who tries to, the commonality, I think, between Steve and I is that we're both curious human beings. Be a curious human being. Be curious about other things and other voices. It will give you a better perspective. It's the same thing I tell my kids. It will make you a more critical thinker, and we need more of that in this country, not less.
I love the thoughts, and one of the things we strive to do here is to sort of present both sides and at least talk about what's being presented, whether that's unfortunately in the case of New Orleans, a mass casualty event or developments in politics. We try to look at it from a both sides perspective. And I understand, which is sort of unfortunate, it makes some people mad, but that's what you just spoke to is exactly what you need to hear the other side. And if you want to make progress, people always ask me, what do we do? You have to listen to the other side, hear what their arguments are, understand the arguments they're making, and try to find something that you can agree on that makes sense and moves the country, state, city forward. That's the magic.
Exactly. And even Abraham Lincoln, our in my opinion, greatest president, said, government of the people, for the people, and by the people. It requires that we exercise our citizenry, and that means writing letters to the editor. That means speaking out. That means being engaged. We are the oldest living democracy in the world has ever known for a reason. We're an educated populace, and we're supposed to be critical thinkers and hold our politicians accountable. Do that, but do that by listening more than speaking. You can learn a lot more by listening. I had to learn that over the course of my 21 plus years on the bench. We all need to do that, and I think it'll make for a better 2025.
Happy New Year, Mary Kuhnmensch. We will see you down the road. Thanks for listening. As always, I'll see you tomorrow with Bill and Joe on the Friday edition of the Political Power Hour on 620 WTMJ.
If you're living with joint pain in your shoulders, hips, elbows, and knees, and you have Medicare or Medicaid insurance, coming to Rejuvenex to solve your pain problems is something you should strongly consider. First off, because our FDA-approved